It seems appropriate that I stopped in Memorial Park for this vlog. I wanted to take the time to honor a celebrity today who may have been small in stature, but big in heart. We love you, Leslie, and I hope this does you justice. Life can be tragic. Unfortunately, this would prove to be true when Leslie's grandmother, Aldine, aunt, Dorothy, and two other relatives were killed in a head-on collision in Tunnel Hill, Georgia. An intoxicated man, 21 years old, driving a 1960s automobile, would hit them head-on, leaving no survivors. Tragedy would befall the family once more, no more than 6 years later, when Leslie's father, Major Allen B. Jordan, would board a single-engine Beechcraft airplane, along with two other Army reservists, en route to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. The plane would never make it to the Strip, landing just outside in a wooded area. All three men were unfortunately killed and honored for their service. And although we cannot argue with the fact that tragedy does in fact shape the character of a man, we also have to include other important elements, such as faith, love, and humility. Leslie's story would begin with the birth of a strawberry farmer in 1853 named Jesse Brooks Jordan. Jesse would go on to marry Catherine Minnis and have several children of his own, including Leslie's own grandfather, Mac Nellie Jordan, in the Blythesbury community. The farm gene ran strong throughout the Jordan family. One of the most notable farmers in the community was Patrick Kearney Sexton, who by marriage became a descendant of the Jordan family. Patrick was known for the story of how he sold his produce to the Chattanooga market. He would load up his horses in his wagon, accompanied only by one lantern, on the dark road from Dayton to Chattanooga. He would then sell his delicious tomatoes and strawberries, just as my great-grandfather Irvin did, to the Chattanooga market. Patrick was married to Lola Sexton, who worked for the Robinson's Manufacturing Company, just as my granny did, and also was an employee of Malcolm Goldston's basket factory. My great-grandfather Irvin actually tried to sell produce to Malcolm Goldston, which I believe is a relative of Leslie's. As it was with Leslie, faith in God was the most important thing to the Jordan family. Patrick and Lola would go on to become prominent citizens of Garrison Baptist Church, Patrick becoming the superintendent for 18 years before his death, and Lola teaching Sunday school for 61 consecutive years. My niece and I took a trip to the Blythesbury community, which is next to the Garrison community, and here we are in Spivey Cemetery. Now, this area right here is where Leslie Jordan's whole ancestors would have grown up and had a lot of farmland. This is actually the old Blythesbury Point, and it was used before the creation of the bridge you see to your right, that is over the Tennessee River. Now, an interesting story would be that of Lola Sexton that I mentioned earlier. Her farmhouse would have been right around here, and it was actually flooded, I'm assuming, by the New Deal project. She said her farmhouse was half in Ray County and half in Hamilton County, so they ate in Ray and usually went to sleep in Hamilton County. Directly across from me is a Hiawassee Island where Sam Houston would have actually lived with the Cherokee Indians, and the Trail of Tears did run through this. They were encamped, as you can see, directly across from me at that entrance of the island. While in Spivey Cemetery, I decided to stop off and pay my respects to Leslie Jordan's great-uncle, Richard Henry Jordan, and as you can see from the photo, actually bears a striking resemblance to Leslie in the eyes. And this one, look at this one. Is this a, look at this. Billy Lloyd. Does that say Dinky Engineer? Saudi Coal and Iron Railway Company. Killed May 25th, 1886. What do you think? He maybe died on railroad or somebody killed him? All right, let's find it real quick. I'm just gonna search up here, and if it's not there, we'll just turn it around because I don't want anybody. That was a little sketch. So this graveyard it's pretty big. I mean, it's pretty massive. It loops all the way around, and it's way back here in the country. And we kind of did a loop to give it a shot because these are flat markers, and I read that on Find a Grave, and I figured it's probably gonna take a long time, and we were on our way to Dave & Buster's, so I didn't really think I would find it, but we did. Leslie Jordan's grandfather, Mac Nellie, his grandmother Aldine, and his aunt, Dorothy L. It's a little surreal to think that Leslie was here back in, well, consecutively 1960 and 1961 for a really tragic event. A little bit on Mac Jordan, that was Leslie's grandfather. We'll start with him. I did find him on Find a Grave. He was 62 years old. And a little bit about him, someone did attach the newspaper article to it, saying that the funeral services for Mac N. Jordan Sr., 62, of 520 Terrell Street, who died in Niagara Falls, New York, Saturday, will be held this afternoon at 2:30 o'clock at the Central Baptist Church with Reverend Ansel T. Baker. Now that must have, I'm assuming, was their family pastor, because you'll see his name come up a few times. Burial will be in the Welsh Cemetery, where I'm currently standing. Active pallbearers, and it mentions like a Robert A. Guthrie, a C.D. Ledford, J.B. Townsend, and honorary pallbearers will be employees of the Colonial Baking Company, where he did work, and Board of Deacons of the Central Baptist Church, where they all attended. The body will lie in state 1 hour at the church and be at the Wynn Funeral Home. So this right here happened in 1960. Leslie would have been here. Now little did he know he'd be back again in 61 for the tragic death of his grandmother Aldine and his Aunt Dorothy. I was able to pull up an article about their death on Find a Grave. Find a Grave is a super convenient website for things like this. And I did find an excerpt from a newspaper. And it doesn't actually mention which newspaper, but I'm assuming it's maybe the Chattanooga Times. Now this article states that Stevens faces 3 counts after a collision in which Chattanoogans died. 3 charges have been placed after a young Georgian who was operating a car involved in a crash which claimed the lives of 4 Chattanooga women late Saturday night at Tunnel Hill, Georgia. Jimmy Marion Stevens, 21, of Route 1, Dalton, was charged early Sunday with manslaughter, driving under the influence
Cemetery Road, then turn left.
of an intoxicant and driving on the wrong side of the road. Young Stevens was driving the 1960 model auto, which crashed head-on into a compact car, driven by Miss Peggy Marie Davis, 33, of 522 Terrell Street, Eastdale, Georgia, state troopers said. Miss Davis, her mother, Miss Noreen G. Davis, 55. I'm not certain where they're buried, but since they were from Ringgold, I'm going to assume there, who also lives at the Terrell Street address. And Miss Dorothy L., over here, 34 years old, 1927 to 61, right there. Miss Dorothy L. and her mother, Mrs. Aldine Jordan, right there, were killed in the crash. Joint funeral services for the women, who were longtime friends and neighbors, will be held at 1 p.m. Tuesday at Central Baptist Church with Reverend Ansel T. Baker officiating. Mrs. Davis and her daughter will be buried in the Chattanooga Memorial Park. All right, that answers that question. And that's actually where Leslie's parents are buried, but it's a bit of a drive, so we won't be going there today. And Mrs. Jordan and her daughter will be buried at Welsh Cemetery, Sail Creek. A very sad, tragic event. Leslie would have been right here in those years before he ever became famous. Born in 1955, Leslie would have spent his childhood in Chattanooga, as most children would, in rural East Tennessee. He would have sipped on glass bottle cokes, played in the lakes, and even wreaked havoc, in a friendly, hilarious way, at the local establishments. As a child, Leslie did own a Shetland pony named Midnight that he loved very much. This love for horses and all things equestrian resulted in his career as an exercise horse racer in Atlanta, Georgia. Although he wished to go on to be a jockey, ultimately the pressures of weight would keep him from doing that. He would return again to Chattanooga, where he enrolled in the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. There he studied drama and was top of his class in his skill. He was beloved by all students and developed a love and passion for acting. He would then take that passion to Los Angeles. While in Los Angeles, his career would skyrocket. He would procure roles in Will and Grace, The American Horror Story, Call Me Kat, Monk, and many others. Though he did love Los Angeles, his home and his heart was Chattanooga with his family. Alright, I'm here currently at the Hickory Creek Townhomes in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Now these are close to Hamilton Place Mall, if you're familiar with the area, just a couple miles down. This is one of the last locations that Leslie would have lived in the Chattanooga area. Now I give him all the credit in the world, for keeping us entertained, giving us joy during one of the darkest years I think this generation's ever going to face. He kept us going, and he gave us something to look forward to through his videos. You know, the well shit. How y'all doing? My granny loves those too. And it was kind of a running joke in our house. Now down here, I just showed you the clubhouse with the tennis courts. In this area is where he would have lived. Right down here. All right. This beautiful townhome right here with the American flag kind of blowing in the wind, that would have been one of Leslie's last residences. He did actually purchase a condominium in Los Angeles shortly before he died. It was one of his proudest moments, but he did live here. I know in 2014, his mama lived in Chattanooga, his sisters lived in Chattanooga, and this has always been home to him. He grew up on Woodmore, but he lived here while he was entertaining all of us, and it's just something amazing to think he would have been on the street. We really can't give Leslie enough credit for what he did for us back during the pandemic. Not just the pandemic. I'm a gigantic fan of Call Me Kat and Cool Kids. And the Cool Kids, I feel like, didn't get enough credit. I think it was a TV Land sitcom. And one of my favorite sitcoms back in the day. It could have been right around the time, actually, I think he lived here. And Call Me Kat, of course, has always been one of my favorite sitcoms. Phil the Baker was just something I loved. This is the clubhouse. There's a pool in the back right there, along with some tennis courts on the side. Just picturing Leslie laying out by the pool in his little lawn chair.
Jeez, Phyllis, why are you so obsessed with me?
Nailed it.
So we stopped off to eat at this Texas Roadhouse, and directly behind me, someone honked at me, is the cemetery where Leslie Jordan was laid to rest. Now, I did place a phone call to them to ask for like a plot identification or a location, and they were unable to give that because his family has kindly asked for respect and for his whereabouts to remain unknown right now so they can have time to grieve and mourn, and that is absolutely understandable. I did not go over across to the cemetery. I wanted to give it a lot of distance and not even show the sign in respect in regards to the family. We love you, we miss you, and we'll see you on the other side.